Hello everybody, I'm Gwendolyn. I know some of you, it's getting to the point now where it's hard for me to remember who I know from only online classes and who I know from pre-online classes because it's been so long and it's all a blur. So I think almost everyone's heard my spiel about why we're here. I'm doing my yoga therapy certification, which is a wonderful marriage of ancient yoga and modern healthcare in a way that's focused more on education than healthcare, I would say. I'm still a yoga teacher. And we'll pepper through all sorts of topics of sleep hygiene and yoga poses and different yoga philosophy as we go. But I'm super excited to be here because this topic is my personal interest. So I've been working all the techniques that I'm going to share with us over the next 9 weeks. And some of them are pretty good. There's no one size fits all. So for anything that I offer or suggest, please know it is a recommendation, but always important to see how it works for you. On that note, any of our yoga, breathing, poses, any of our information, as always, listen to your body, do what feels good. There's a doctor who says you are the most important doctor in the room for your own self and your own experience. So that still applies here. I will let you know how our sessions will run. Probably an important thing to know. So every time we meet, we'll do an info session, roughly 15 minutes, maybe more, and then we'll do a practice, roughly an hour, but we have built this to be an hour-and-a-half session to give us some wiggle room depending on how things go. And if by any chance you need to come late or leave early, of course, that is okay. We will be here. Unlike in-person programs, you don't even have to tiptoe in the back door. You just sort of magically appear, right? So if you can only make it for the last 15 minutes, that's okay, whatever. Of course, we want to have you here the whole time, but we know life happens. What else can I say? I think, okay, so all of our sessions are going to be fairly gentle, winding down kinds of things. I will be recording this, so if you're worried about being too awake and taking too many notes during the information session, don't worry about it. You can go back and watch it later and maybe take notes then or refresh or whatever it is. And then all the movements we do, you'll see I'm here on the floor already. And you can be on the floor or even sitting on your bed or the couch or whatever makes sense for you the whole time we are here, with the intention to sort of slide from our day into our evening and sleep through the night, one would hope. So nothing too demanding. I don't even have a yoga mat, if that helps figure out how to set up your space. Things you may like are, now I'm gonna confuse you, a yoga mat folded up to go underneath your body. So if we're doing something like, if you've ever done restorative yoga, you've done this before, but instead of having the legs straight, we'll put the yoga mat under the legs and then it's more comfortable for the knees. And depending on the pose, I will tell us where we can put this. You may have fancy yoga bolsters at home that already you know what to do with them, or maybe you don't know what to do with them. Bring them along and I can give some suggestions. Really, the big idea is that you have something underneath you to make it softer, and that rather than your joint being straight, it can be bent. I have also a blanket and a couple of towels you can get a very similar effect with. You may also like a yoga mat, depending on what you're doing at home, maybe a thicker mat. Those old Pilates mats actually work well for what we're going to be doing. If you have a thicker one at home rather than a thin one on a hardwood floor or a hard tile floor, not going to be the most comfortable thing. And then anything else, cushions, blankets, an eye pillow, that kind of stuff. And well, it's a bit of a process to figure out as we go what you like. When I first started doing this kind of stuff, I don't know, I had this idea in my head that I just like couldn't handle any kind of props or blankets or it was too much. So I always just practiced with nothing. And then over time, I picked up things that I liked. You may also like some of the stuff from our kit. So let's go ahead and grab our kits. Okay, so let's start with maybe some of the more self-explanatory items. Tea. All right, so we have our tea to energize us. Okay, who thinks this should be consumed at 8 p.m.? And who thinks it should be consumed first thing in the morning, right? Like you probably guessed what this is for. The ingredients in the energizing tea are designed to wake you up in the morning rather than being a real jolt. They more gently warm and wake. So their ingredients are all things that are supposed to be either ginseng is supposed to be energizing, ginger is warming, ashwagandha is energizing, yerba mate is energizing, licorice is considered warming and it makes it taste good, and peppermint is often what they call like brightening or energizing, that it gives you pep without caffeine. The calm one. Okay, this is a very balanced tea. Chamomile, spearmint, lemon balm, passion flower, and lavender are all supposed to help you fall asleep. But it's balanced because the orange peel and orange blossom are actually a little bit energizing. So they might help you if you're in sort of a bad mood before you go to bed. That might brighten you a little bit so you can sleep better. I personally like this with lots of lemon in it. So if you want to like lemon slice or lemon juice, but it makes it a little bit peppier and perkier, which sometimes wakes people up, but it's not that strong. It's not the same as having a coffee before bed. So this is one other thing you might like to have with us here each night when we get together. Some kind of soothing tea. As a general rule of thumb, I mean, you probably knew this already, maybe not. Chamomile, good for sleep. Spearmint, passion flower, and lavender, really common in teas to help you sleep. One of my favorite blends is chamomile and lavender. That's it, none of these other fancy ingredients. And then we will spend a little bit more time, maybe Nikki will help us out with this one, we'll see, looking at specific ingredients to look for sleep. But at least to get us started off, now we know this is one other thing we can bring to class, some kind of soothing nighttime tea. And we have our essential oils. Again, Nikki is going to help us out more specifically with how to use these. I would say for today, let's put them somewhere we can use them in a moment. So if you're set up like me, you can just put them like near your space. And we're just going to use a drop of each, but for now, we don't want to have oil on ourselves, so let's just put them off to the side, but we will come to them. They are, again, a balanced combination. The orange is kind of brightening and peppy and warm, and the lavender is more soothing and sleepy. You can use them together or one at a time, and they are quite lovely. We also have in our kit our journal. So I saved this for last because we are going to spend some time journaling. And I hope you got your affirmation cards. We are going to make our own affirmations on a different day, so we can save those in our kit for another time. Okay, so we're going to use this journal, and you may have another journal. You're not bound to this one. We're going to use this to help us fall asleep and help us wake up. So probably every week I'll give us a little bit of time to write in here. And then the other recommendation is to spend some time each morning writing in here again. If you can remember, just to make it good practice, or even if you just want to write how to do this, we start with what they call a nocturnal journal. It is catchier than writing sleep log, but essentially it's that sort of thing. So you might like to give yourself, if you did your intake assessment with me, you know, a mark or a number on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being perfect night's sleep, 1 being barely slept all night, and 3 being so-so in the middle. You might like that to be part of your nocturnal journal. So if you can remember from last night, let's go ahead and write that down now. And then if you can remember any kind of thought or feeling, emotion that you had when you first woke up. You don't have to put just one, you can put many. Maybe you're having many feelings or thoughts. Sometimes people use this space to write a couple of notes, maybe a sentence or two about any dreams you remembered having. We can also write what time you fell asleep and what time you woke up. And any other thoughts on your quality of sleep. So took me 1 hour to fall asleep. I was awake for 3 hours from 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. or tossed and turned, solid night's sleep, whatever it may be. Okay, and don't let me stop you if you're still getting a lot of good writing done. The next thing we're gonna do is sometimes called a brain dump. So if there is anything on your mind that you feel chattering around, another term that's sometimes used is worry writing. I prefer the term brain dump. Sometimes people like to picture that their brain is a bucket and they're just dumping it out. Or a friend of mine likes to picture that she takes her brain out and gives it a shower and then puts it back in. Whatever is on your mind, we are, just taking some time to let it out here, knowing that there is no correct way to feel. It is all okay. This is just an open space. And there are other ways you could do this. If ever you don't have a journal, you can record it on your phone, you can do a voice note, you could list it in your mind. But writing is a good way. Okay, and if you are getting a lot of good writing done and you want to keep writing, feel free to keep writing in a moment, but for now, if you're not there already, let's go to the space that you are planning on being in for our practice together. And before we go there, any questions on anything that I just talked about? Does this all make sense? And I will send you notes as well. I'm gonna mute everybody. Okay. So if we have our 2 oils, we can actually take a drop of each in one hand and then we're going to rub our hands together. The idea being that the lavender is heavy and soothing, earthy, grounding, but we don't want to get pulled down too much, so we also use a drop of the orange, which is brightening, light, and lifts us up. It's a very cheerful oil. And when we've got them, we can rub our hands together. No special fancy technique. And yes, we can open our palms in front of our faces and take a few breaths in and out. And if these are new oils to you, you might just like to notice how they make you feel. And there's no one-size-fits-all oil. You might not respond that well to it, might not be your favorite, and that is okay. And I'm gonna throw on some just gentle, very background music to guide us through. Here we go. All right, and we are ready to go with this lovely smell and our lovely music. We are going to start with a hand position that is designed to bring our energy down. All right, so on both hands, we can take our thumb and middle two fingers together and then flip the palms up. And we can leave our hands resting on our thighs or knees. Of course, if you are sitting in a chair, that is perfectly fine. Option to close our eyes here. And let's notice our 5 senses. Let's start with our sense of smell, since we've been there already. Noticing any smells in the room. You may, of course, notice the lovely floral scent. Or maybe dinner cooking. Well, let's go to our sense of hearing, noticing any sounds nearby. Maybe our sense of taste, if we're aware of a taste in the mouth. And with our eyes closed, if they are, noticing what color we're seeing behind our closed eyelids. And finally, our sense of touch. Noticing the feeling of holding this position in our hands. And knowing that this hand position is supposed to bring our energy down, let's see if we can hold this position but still keep the hands relaxed. So using only as much energy as is necessary to keep the thumb and the middle two fingers together. And then our first and pinky finger can be relaxed, and we can let our hands be really heavy, resting on our thighs. And we can scan the body from head to toe, noticing how we're feeling on maybe a physical level, emotional level, mentally, or anything else that comes up. And if we have any other thoughts during this time that we would like to add to our journal and sort of dump out of our minds, feel free to pause and write them down. And let's bring our awareness to our breath. We'll start with a 3-part breath. So we can visualize with every inhale our breath filling our lungs from the bottom to the top. So each time we breathe in, we feel our belly expand, then our ribs, then we fill to the top, chest and shoulders, And we can feel this reverse as we breathe out. The top of our lungs emptying, then the middle, then the bottom. So we're breathing evenly into all 3 parts of our lungs. The middle third, as much as the top third, as much as the bottom third. You may like to say to yourself as you breathe, on the inhale, bottom, middle, top, top, middle, bottom, as it empties out, or you may prefer to count. 1, 2, 3. 3, 2, 1. Keeping in mind that this is partly a visualization to help us get a deeper breath and keep our minds focused. So if for you it feels like you're filling from top to bottom, that's okay. Let's take a couple more breaths like this. And eyes opened or closed, we can rub our hands together one more time. Again, maybe take a deep, slightly more energizing breath. All right, and we are ready to get moving. So we'll do a little bit of work warming up our spines. You may be more comfortable sitting on top of a rolled up mat or on top of a cushion, and if you're in a chair, it works almost exactly the same way. So technically we should warm up our spines before doing pretty much any kind of movement, almost every kind of movement, so that's what we're going to do here. So we'll start with twists. We'll inhale to sit tall. And then as we exhale, let's take hand to opposite knee. We'll turn and twist. And we'll do the same thing the other way. Inhale back through center, sitting tall. And exhale, turning and twisting. That's our pattern. Let's keep going. Inhale, center. Exhale, twist. So you may have done this before in a very invigorating practice. Twists are great for warming up and getting the abs going. Let's do it in a more soft, low energy way. The same way as we did that hand position to bring our energy down, let's twist in a way that brings the energy down too. So maybe we're not going to our fullest range of motion, we're a bit more easygoing with it. Let's go once more each way. And we'll come back through center when you're ready. And we'll take the spine side to side. So let's go ahead and take one hand down for support. We'll inhale, reach the arm up and over, and then exhale to switch in the center. Inhale to feel expansion in our lungs, and then exhale to come back through center. So you might still be feeling that sensation of the 3-part breath. As we inhale, feeling our belly, ribs, and then chest fill. As we exhale, letting it go. Super. And of course, maybe our shoulders are taking it easy today. We don't have to do such a big reach or any reach at all if our focus is really on our spines. Let's do once more each way. We'll come back through center, and we'll do a little spin on our cat and cow. So if you're seated in a chair, you can slide your hands forward or even down your calves. And for those of us on the floor, we can actually walk our hands forward to round our spines. And then walk our hands in behind to lift our chests. So I'll show you from the side as well. We can walk our hands forward or even slide our hands forward. And then reach our hands back to help us lift. So we're using the floor to help us feel supported so we don't have to work too hard. To help it be more of a slow process, here's my personal preference to breathe in as I lift up, breathe out to move, and then breathe in again when I'm in that forward position. So breathe out to transition and breathe in to hold the pose. And it's okay if you find a slightly better pattern working for you, that's okay too. And we'll go once more each way. And we will come back through center. All right, so if we are seated on the floor, we can plant our feet and let's take the knees side to side to loosen up our hips after so much sitting. If you are seated in a chair, we can plant our feet on the floor and then just kind of swivel and shake the knees off side to side, or bend and straighten the legs. Beautiful. All right, let's make our way into a child's pose. So if you know child's pose and you do yoga all the time, go for it. I will walk us through as though we've never done a child's pose before. So we'll come until we're on our hands and knees. And then we're shifting our seats back, lowering our body to the floor until we find a comfortable place to rest. So that might be our forearms, that might be a straight arm with our thumbs up quite high, or we may be resting belly to thighs and heels to hips. And while we're in this position, if you take a breath, you probably notice, because your arms are up and out of the way and you're rounded forward, you feel more expansion in the side and back of your ribs. And that's a great thing to feel. So we can stay here for a moment, feeling that expansion, knowing that if it's uncomfortable, we could always come more forward. And for anyone who is practicing in a chair, we can just drape our body forward over our thighs in a very similar way and let the arms hang. And let's do probably our most strenuous pose of the evening. Let's come into a kneeling lunge. So I'll show you what it looks like, and then I'll give us some different options for setup. So in a kneeling lunge, we take 1 foot forward and slide our foot back and our foot forward and our knee back enough that as I come into my kneeling lunge, my front foot is completely flat for support, and I'm getting a comfortable stretch sensation through the back hip, maybe the inner thigh and the back of the legs. You may like I have here, a rolled up mat under your knee. Some of us, it will be a huge range of motion and we'll want to come way down. And then there's actually a version to do this too. If it's really painful for the knee, we could do it standing as well and get that same kind of split. And we're going to stay here longer than we would in a quick flowing class. So let's find a version that's fairly comfortable. And we can add a little bit of movement. So we can shift front and back. Maybe there's some restless energy we want to work out. we're standing, same idea. We can shift front and back. It's kind of a wonky way to do the pose and move with it, but that's how we tweak it out and we work out those little kinks in the body. If anywhere feels particularly good, we could stay there a little longer. Or if anywhere feels really tight, we could stay there longer too. And then we're ready to switch sides. So to get from one side to the other, transition however you like, but often we go from child's pose, switching which foot is in front. And it may take a couple of steps to get the foot up to the top of the mat. And yes, we can have cushion under the knee, or we could be off the knee completely. And let's start that shift front and back. And we're sort of on the search here, we're on the hunt, looking for places that need our attention. So if we shift into a spot and it feels like no sensation, nothing really going on, then maybe we reapproach it. So we can take the foot a little further over, adjust our hips, remember to breathe. Or maybe we could even focus more on that back range of motion, getting more of a hamstring stretch. We will have more hamstring stretches this evening though, so this won't be the only chance we have to stretch the back of the leg. And yes, we can have our hand on the floor for support rather than the thigh. Or you may have seen me put my hand on the wall for balance, that's okay too. But let's start to finish this side off. And we're going to make our way again into child's, or you may like to do a downward facing dog. So yogi's choice, child's, or tucking the toes up into down dog. And then let's meet lying on our stomachs. So if you are seated in a chair, that is okay by all means. You'll do a seated cow instead. So you'll see what we're going to do with our backs in a second, or a standing chest expansion kind of position. So if we're okay here lying on our stomachs, then we can use our fingers to push us up into a cobra or sphinx variation. So we're using some strength in the back of our bodies. We can push our feet down. We can use our hands to give us just a little extra edge to come up. Or for more strength, we can reach our hands back alongside our bodies. Some of us may like to interlace our fingers, but we don't have to. And I like to picture this burning up my last bit of energy for the day, so we can really squeeze our backs. And then again, we're going to come to meet in either a child's pose or a downward dog. You may even feel that you prefer to come into just a neutral spine. And no rush to get there, but we will meet in a seated position. We'll stay seated for a couple of poses, and yes, if it is more comfortable, of course, we could go ahead and sit on a cushion to give us some elevation. Perfect. And the idea is that any kind of forward folding motion helps send our minds and bodies into sleep. So let's sit up tall to begin. So we're coming forward with a tall posture, not unlike that lovely back strength pose that we just did. And bit by bit, let's ease ourselves in to a forward fold. We may like to bend the knees. If we had a second cushion, we could put that under the knees as well. And we do have the strength of our arms holding us up a bit, so we can really start to let the upper body flop while we're here. And we can add what's usually called a sinking breath. So we inhale, maybe we feel that the body lifts. And with our exhale, we'll probably notice that we claim a little bit more space. Inhaling, feeling our lift. And exhaling, feeling a sinking sensation. So let's keep in mind, we can always come out of a pose early if it's not working. If it feels good, we're going to stay here a little while longer though. Might like to give the head a gentle shake or turn it from side to side. We'll walk our hands back up to a seated position, and our legs can be bent or straight, and then option to reach in behind palm to palm. We might like to take our fingertips down, or once more we might like to interlace our hands and get a deeper chest stretch. We'll come back through center, and let's do what I call spider pose. And if we have a blanket, we could keep sitting on it, that's totally fine. But we're going to take our legs out. It's a variation of a wide-legged forward fold. So we're going to take our legs bent to begin, like a spider's legs. And ideally we're like right on our butt bones. So if you're rolled back onto like your bum cheeks, let's do our best to sit up. And actually people will say take your like literally like the meat from your seat and pull it back so you can be more on your bones. It's not very graceful, but it can help you get into this pose. Another way to do it is actually to rest the legs, kind of pull your butt cheek back and then bend them. So hopefully that helps us to sit a bit taller, maybe feels a bit more like cow pose and less like cat. And let's see if this helps us come into a more comfortable, wide-legged forward fold. If you love this pose and it's your favorite and you can just like fold in half like a fold away bed, go for it. If not, I will show you from the side that whole thing that we just did. So you could be sitting on a folded yoga mat, a blanket, a cushion, whatever it is. We kind of pulled our butt cheeks out of the way. We sit tall, and I would say posture is more important than how far forward we go. Believe it or not, the position of our pelvis and our posture determines the kind of inner thigh stretch that we get. So if we're really rounded forward, our inner thighs are shorter than if we sit tall and kind of untuck our tails. Sitting on your tail, shorter inner thigh muscles, untucking your tail, more of an inner thigh stretch. And really, it's not important how far forward we fold. We're here, we're breathing, we're resting, it's all good. You may like a couple times to breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth to kind of relieve some of that stress, or do a pursed lip breath like you're breathing through a straw. Again, we have the option to leave the knees really bent, a little bit bent, or totally straight. All right, we will come back through center, and we're going to make our way down to lie down on our backs. We'll do a little bit of movement, but we are moving into our more restful space. So we aren't totally ready yet for like an eye pillow or a blanket or that sort of thing, but we're getting there. Let's start with knees to chest. We can give ourselves a big hug. And we did just do a lot of work seated, so if that is not familiar for you, you may like to windshield wipe the legs again, drop the knees side to side. Might feel nice to do a bridge pose and lift the hips, or a long stretch. Anything you need to kind of like settle the low back. And we'll do a variation of a cradle the baby pose here. So I'll suggest a really gentle, meaning like we don't have to work hard to hold it version. You may prefer a different version with a deeper stretch, but here's my suggestion. We take the right ankle over the left thigh and do a gentle windshield wipe side to side. So it's not as deep a stretch as other variations of pigeon that you may be accustomed to. If you feel like you need a really deep outer thigh and glute stretch, go for it. Don't let me hold you back if you want to do a more typical version of cradle the baby, giving the leg a hug or anything like that. But my intention is that we are winding it down and we soothe ourselves with some gentle rocking motions. We can let the foot drop all the way to one side and the knee drop all the way to the other. If it feels really good, anywhere in that range of motion, you can pause and hold. We can give it a few more rocks side to side. Again, always knowing you can come out of the pose early if you like and rest. And then we're ready for the other side. So we can come back through center and reset. This time taking left over right, or whichever side it was you did first. Going through this very gentle twist from side to side. And the pose, cradle the baby in this rocking motion. We can picture ourselves cradling ourselves here, right? We're making time for self-care, self-soothing, self-maintenance for our health and well-being. Listening to the body and then responding accordingly. So I'm feeling like really tight as I come into this part of the pose. I can pause a little longer and then keep flowing through. Keeping in mind here, we're also building this skill of self-knowledge or self-study. Noticing how this works for you. You might feel really good doing a really small range of motion or skipping this movement entirely. And that's okay. So there's no one right way. We all have to sort of find our own way, and it changes day to day too. When we feel like both sides match, let's come back through center. And again, do something to reset. So we've done a fair amount of work with our legs bent. Maybe it'll feel good to put the legs straight. Maybe a big stretch overhead. To help us feel more sleepy, sometimes it works to inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth, or to fake a yawn. So force a yawn or fake a yawn here. And you may find that it helps you wind down. All right, if there is any final pose you would like to do, feel free to do so. But I'll show us a couple ways that we can use our blankets here. So if you are lying in bed, totally fine. If you are lying on the floor and you have a rolled up mat or blanket, we can actually just take it in behind the head. So fold it over a couple times. Kind of like a pillow. But the idea being that if your posture, like many of us are, is a little rounded, then putting you on a flat floor means that your head won't be supported, and so that a little bit of a pillow brings you into an easier position to breathe, and then hopefully over time, lying on the floor doing all this yoga will flatten you out, but maybe not. So if you feel like you can't breathe, sometimes putting something behind the head will help. You may also like to put something underneath the knees so that the knees aren't locked out. And if this is not comfortable, feel free to lie on your side, your back, sit up, or lean back on the couch. If we feel that we're being soothed, comfortable, in our happy place, fantastic. It is not conducive to relaxation to be lying here uncomfortably waiting for it to be over. So I'm not judging you based on how you lie down. Do whatever you need to do to kind of get into that zone. I actually am going to stay seated in case you're wondering what I'm doing, just so I can project my voice a bit better and guide us through our final relaxation. So let's go ahead and notice how we're feeling. If you're taking a while getting cozy, don't worry, it's all good. You may feel you still have some restless energy here, and you might like to do something kind of funny, like blow through the lips. On the playground, we called it horse lips, to relax the face. Sometimes it helps again to rub the hands to get some restless energy out. Maybe there's still some essential oil there, or to make a fist and squeeze and then shake the hands off. And then when you're ready, we will settle into stillness, knowing that if you are feeling restless, of course, you can do any of these weird fidgety things to get rid of some of that restless energy. And let's come back to our 3-part breath. Inhaling, belly, ribs, chest. Filling our lungs bottom to top. And exhaling, letting it go. Maybe we choose counting, inhaling 1, 2, 3. And exhaling 3, 2, 1. Let's take a moment here to notice all parts of the body that are touching whatever surface is beneath you. Back of the head, heels, back of the arms. Inhaling to notice. And exhaling, noticing how heavily these parts are pressing into the surface beneath you. With each exhale, allowing the parts that are touching the floor, mat, bed, whatever it is, let's see if we can allow them to become heavier each time we breathe out. And let's make our way through a body scan here. Let's start with our feet. Holding our feet in our awareness here. And noticing that we can hold our awareness on one foot at a time. Right foot, left foot, or both feet together. And picking up any sensations in the feet. So are we feeling temperature, warm, cold, tingling, throbbing, maybe a dullness? And there may be really a lack of awareness here. We're not sure what we're feeling, or we're not noticing anything in particular. And we can give this awareness a name. But knowing that this is an exercise in awareness, letting go of any kind of competition, judgment, or expectation, no matter what we're experiencing, telling ourselves, that's okay. So maybe my feet are feeling really warm, and that's okay. Or my feet are really sore, and that's okay. And let's move our awareness up through our legs. Lower leg, our calf muscle, our knees and our thighs. Sending our awareness around through the length of our leg, picking up on whatever kind of sensations are there. And no matter what comes up, saying to ourselves, I'm okay, or that's okay. Focusing on just what you can feel right now. Let's bring the awareness up into the pelvis and trunk of the body. Maybe we're noticing movement of digestion or our internal organs. Staying in the present moment, by which we mean, if your low back hurt at 7 o'clock tonight, but right now it feels fine, focusing on what it feels like right in this very moment. And maybe that'll change 3 seconds from now. No matter what that awareness is, we reaffirm and tell ourselves, I'm okay. Let's move our awareness up into our shoulders and down the length of each arm. Seeing whatever comes into our awareness and doing our best to accept it, recognize it without resistance. And even though we're noticing these sensations, telling ourselves, I'm okay. So it might be, I'm not really sure of any sensation in my arms, and I'm okay. Or there's a bit of a humming in my palms, and that's okay. And finally we'll come up to the neck, head, and face. Noticing, naming, and accepting. Telling ourselves, in this moment, it's okay. And we'll do a brief rotation of consciousness through the body. And before we do, let's bring into our awareness the entire body, noticing the whole body and how it's feeling. And let's once more repeat to ourselves, I'm okay. You may like another affirmation, I'm here, I'm safe. I allow my body to relax now. And let's bring our awareness around the body. So you may be familiar with a rotation of consciousness from a Yoga Nidra practice, and that's exactly what we'll be doing. Just allow your attention to follow the sound of my voice as we go through the body. And we'll let the attention bounce from place to place on sort of a mental journey. As we reach each point, you may like to imagine that this part of the body winds down for sleep, or just simply notice that it's there. You may like to picture a warm glow or light in the place that I call our mind too. But it is a lovely practice because you have to do absolutely nothing but listen to the sound of my voice. Well, let's go ahead and begin at the right hand, bringing our awareness to the thumb of the right hand and moving to the first finger, middle finger, ring finger, pinky finger, palm of the hand, back of the hand, the right arm, shoulder, the right hip, thigh, kneecap, calf muscle, heel, sole of the foot, top of the foot, all 5 toes, the left hand, the left thumb, first finger, middle finger, ring finger, little finger, palm of the hand, back of the hand, the left arm, shoulder, hip, thigh, kneecap, calf muscle, heel, sole of the foot, top of the foot, all 5 toes. The upper back, mid back, low back, the spine. Noticing all parts of the body resting on the surface beneath you. Inhaling, feeling light. And exhaling, noticing how heavily the body rests into the floor. Noticing all points of contact between the body and the floor. And with your next exhale, feeling these parts drop more heavily into the floor. If it's comfortable, let's begin to stretch out the exhale. Maybe inhaling for a count of 4 and exhaling for a count of 8. Without forcing, but consciously following a breath pattern. If we're still feeling a little fidgety, we can come back into that mudra with our hands, even with our arms lying on the floor next to us, thumb touching our middle and ring finger. Inhaling 1, 2, 3, 4. Slow exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, seeing if we can stretch it to 6 or 8, and then pause with the lungs empty. So this style of breathing sends the message to mind and body to become relaxed, sleepy, wind down. You may even be able to notice the feeling of your heartbeat slowing and your heart rate slowing. The numbers aren't particularly important, but the idea is that they help keep our minds focused so we can take a full relaxed breath in and then stretch that exhale out to be longer than our inhale to send that message to heart, mind and body to slow down. Feel free to stay exactly as you are, breathing like this for as long as you want. Our official time together is up. You may already be in bed, and you can stay there and just roll over and sleep through the night. But we will end the Zoom call so you do not have to come back. If you would like, as is tradition, we can bring hands to heart to finish our class together. Thank you very much for being here. And as we say at the end of yoga, namaste, meaning the light in me honors and recognizes the light in you. So we are one. Namaste. Thank you, everyone, and have yourselves a lovely evening.